Yep.
It will eventually figure us out. And I have one more task before we really and truly begin. Oh, it's yelling at me. No Instagram today because they won't talk to our StreamYard. But I am so glad you are all here, even if the Instagram folks can't be. Hi. I'm going to start, as always, you missed our little intro, with what is happening in March? What is going on? Well, big announcement maybe next week about something that might be going on, but in the meantime, here's the norms. So this weekend, Saturday, Herbalism Year 1, all day long, full day seminar, delightful, always fun. The next day on the 2nd, Sunday, we have Gateways to the Gods. If you're interested in that class, do sign up in advance because I gotta know how much stuff to make. And if you've got to vote for what you want to try, we can do that one. I'm good with that. Year 3 for Herbalism is right now on Tuesday nights. That's where Year 1 will be next year. And Year 2, I'm teaching this evening. Definitely do not try to jump into those. I tried to let people jump in and they all said, no, it's not a good idea. Don't let anybody ever do that again. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday and the Saturday after and the last Saturday of the month, these two will be here rabble-rousing with the rest of the Standing Stones and perhaps future Standing Stones members. We'll see. And later that same day, our tarot reader Ravenwolf will be leading a by donation class on chaos magic. That should be a load of fun. Do check it out. It's up on the website. I'm excited for it. Tarot Lab is the following Sunday. That's the 9th. Another by donation class at 3:30 this time instead of 2:30. And we have Reiki 1 will be on Sunday the 16th at noon. Go ahead and register if you're ready for your beautiful Reiki journey. Read an interesting study on Reiki this morning, actually, and the importance or lack thereof of initiators or initiations. Interesting topic. Thursday evening, this is when we're closed. Usually I'm the only one who teaches when we're closed, but Adam, our astrologer Adam, who works behind the counter, will be offering a by donation class at 6 p.m. right when we close on astrology. He's offered astrology classes here before and people rave when they take those classes. So I encourage y'all to sign up. On the 22nd, when you guys are going to be, I'm guessing, somewhere else that weekend.
Yes, Paganicon calls.
Yes.
We'll do a free plug for that.
We'll do a little spring celebration here as well. And there'll be a delightful woman doing aura photography here. So if you need a break from Paganicon, or if you're not going to Paganicon, stop in. Maybe get your aura photo taken and interpreted for you. She's got a couple options for depending on how much interpretation you want. It should be a lot of fun. And the following Sunday, of course, it's Chris's Palmistry 101 class. That's a series of 4 classes that work like a merry-go-round. You can jump in at any point. It's another by donation class. He just knows so much about palmistry. It is amazing to go. I have friends who have taken his classes twice. They love them so much. And that's that. Oh yes, and Reiki Share the last Sunday of the month at noon. So if you're a Reiki person and you just want to come and do some trades, come on by. It's always a good time. Now, when it comes to the Delightful Standing Stones schedule, we're talking about, because this is the section of the schedule that got rearranged a little bit. So on the 8th, the first Saturday they're going to be here, the second Saturday of March, we are doing auras and shielding, and it should be fun.
Actually, it's the psychometry.
It's the psychometry?
Yes.
We've got lots of arrows
Yes,
and they're
you're
hard
right.
to follow.
You're right. It is
Yes.
psychometry. Thank you. It is psychometry.
Yep.
So energy manipulation and psychometry, which I love. I am glad you guys are doing that as part of the basic 101 level. By the way, they have more classes, by the way, than are listed here, which we'll get into because there's definitely a 102 and a 103. And we'll talk. And then after that, the schedule becomes actually arrow-free. So on the 15th, it's ethics and responsibility. And on the 29th, it's meditation and the magical mind. And if you want to do magical work, highly recommend meditation and learning the nuts and bolts of it because it does help you focus your energy. That said, that's the schedule. I will remind you all we have delightful readers and there's some changes. I know. Tracy has had her last day for a while. She'll be back. We look forward to her coming back. But she is once again having an important medical procedure done. And that's going to take at least 3 months of recovery time, maybe even 6. So we might see her this summer. We might see her this fall. We wish her well. We want her to recover and be comfortable and all the wonderful things. And I'm so glad she's got some wonderful help with her recovery. But in the meantime, we'll still have Paul on Mondays doing dream interpretation from 2 to 6. Raven Wolf will be here on, I believe it's Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at different times each day. So he's going to be here on Fridays from 1 until at least 4, on Saturdays from noon until at least 2, maybe as late as 3, which I'll get to that in a second. And we have 2 new people coming to fill in some of those gaps. So I've got Kenneth, who is a delight. He auditioned wonderfully, doing tarot on the Wednesdays and Thursdays. I believe it's Thursdays. Don't hold me to that though. And 3 to 6 on Saturdays. And we'll have Murphy, Doc Murphy Pizza, will be in doing readings on Sundays to sub in for Tracy. She's ill right now, so we're just working out the schedule. And I clearly need to replace this because I'm trying to do it from memory. This is not the right schedule. Let's put that aside. And I also want to remind you guys that we are on Facebook if you're not watching us there, YouTube if you're not watching us there, Instagram, which we would be there today right now, but it's not talking to us, TikTok, and Blue Sky. We were never on Twitter, so we're not on X. But check out, we do daily posts on most of these places and spaces, and it's a lot of fun to like show off how to do something, or that something came in, or that someone's doing something silly. So last thing before we talk to you guys. Got a few things that have come in recently. One of them came in from a traveling salesperson. We just took what he had left basically. So I've just got a limited supply of these, but it's stuff we've carried before that you guys have loved. So the Kala Chakra incense that we have carried in the past is here, at least for the moment. And the Green Tara gift pack is also here. And that's got lots of fun incenses in it that you can try if you want to try your hand, not at the more Western styles, but the more Eastern styles of incense. That is here. We, of course, had our weekly Fred Souls order. And I have some very sad news for Fred Souls fans. I'm very sorry, but Fred has chosen to discontinue Sage and Cedar. And we're out, and they're out of the 20-stick packs. They have very little of anything left. So if you see a 20-stick pack somewhere and you love it, get it, because it's not coming back.
Oh, I was so worried you were going to say Fred Souls and stop making incense.
No.
Like,
No. As somebody who made incense for a living for like 10, 15 years, they know we would buy them.
Yeah, pretty much.
They know we would
You just have to pass the hat on that one.
Yes, we would just buy them. So if you're not familiar with Fred Souls incense, this is the stuff. It costs one side or the other of $1 a stick. I want to warn you now. So there's always a little sticker shock, but it's worth every penny. It is some of the very best stuff on a stick. The staff usually want to shoot me if I try to burn anything else. And part of the reason the sticks look different, like this one's got a little dusting on it of something, it's because the real thing is on a stick. There's frankincense, actual frankincense on here, not cheap perfume that someone dipped a cheap stick into and packaged up and sold you. This has got whatever it says on the outside of the package on the stick physically. It's delightful. It's wonderful. And a number of very famous people have really liked it, so they put it as riders on their contracts.
I swear by this stuff. I really do.
Isn't it great?
I mean, not everybody can handle incense scents, but that in terms of headaches and allergies,
Yeah.
Give it a try. See what you think.
Yes, because if you're allergic, it's usually the cheaper glues and the cheap fragrances that are being used. They don't use cheap glues. They don't use cheap fragrances. So yeah, you're right. People with allergies.
I mean, you might still be
usually-
allergic to it, but
Yes.
if
But your odds
it's
are
not
better.
too severe, give it a shot and see what you think.
Yes. Also, people will burn, depending on the size of the space they're in, 1/3 to 1/2 of a stick at a time sometimes. And I just run it under the faucet, and the scent's there forever. Honestly, I burnt an entire stick, like outside of a ritual space. We've gone and done the ritual, come back out, and there is a layer in the air to which the smoke of the incense has settled. It is hilarious.
Yeah, that incense you probably don't want to put out with your fingers unless they're really, really wet.
No.
You might want to stick it under the faucet because they burn pretty
Yeah.
hot.
They do.
Ask me how I know.
Or if you've got a candle snuffer, you could snuff it with that.
That will
That'll
work,
work. We also got in, and I am very excited about this, I have to be honest with you. These went out briefly here years ago. This is Leaves of Light. This is the first CD recording of Tismal Crow's lectures. Who's Tismal Crow, I hear you asking? Why, let me tell you. Tismal Crow was a local Native American herbalist and healer. He, for example, taught Matthew Wood, who in turn taught me. He was my local teacher as well. There's hundreds of hours of material. They never made it past this CD because they still have most of the copies. So I took a 30 CD box off their hands. These are $29.95. I loved listening to this. And if you're a fan of Matthew Wood, you're going to get a kick out of some of the stuff that's on here. And if you are into herbs at all, you will love some of the stories he tells about these herbs. He's got 12 herbs he covers on here. They're all local. They're all things you could harvest here in Minnesota or, or any of our neighboring states. So highly, highly recommend. Love this CD. Will never lose my personal copy. And then I have one more thing to tell you about. We had a blast at the book signing last Saturday for Collecting Spirits. Renee was fantastic. She signed everybody's books. It was friendly. We even had a pop-up Girl Scout sale. Oh, that reminds me. It's not on the calendar yet, but there's a Girl Scout sale on March 8th. And yes, it's deliberately scheduled and timed so that you guys will be captured and all want to buy $30 worth of cookies.
Yeah, you might want to get out
Might
quick
need to
because
get
there might
more
not be
boxes.
nothing left of the popular, the Thin Mints. It might just be gone.
They might be. I bought the 5 boxes for $30. I did the deal. I got 2 boxes of Thin Mints. How can I not? But this is her book. It's Collecting Spirits. We had a blast. I still have a few copies, and the copies that we kept, I had her autograph. So all of our books are signed copies right now. So stop by. Local author who did not believe in ghosts until, stories in here. But that's fun stuff that's come in, fun stuff that's happening. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mention the pop-up Girl Scout thing. It's not on the calendar yet. Just got solidified yesterday.
Well, I've reached a very obvious and mundane conclusion. I need to pay more attention to your schedule.
Yes, absolutely.
Really, I need to pay more attention to the schedule because as you're going through this, like, I wonder if I could find time. Right after the Stones, we used to have somebody in the Coven that did X,
Well, and that tarot lab I mentioned, that's taught by Nancy Antonucci. She's a local tarot author. She's led the Tarot Collective here in the Twin Cities for years.
Right.
Was one of the people who spearheaded their conference for years, which has been shut down for those of you looking for a tarot conference. They've now gone to a retreat style because they need fewer people to make their numbers work on that with COVID and just everybody stopped going to events like that. So they host fantastic events. I tabled every year except the year I became a widow. I didn't go. I think, reasonable. Absolutely loved the event. I go to a lot of these events and I definitely in my mind there's ratings. I can't help it.
Well, Twin Cities Tarot Collective is very high thought of. Very highly thought of in the community. I am not a tarot person, but that's a name I know well.
Yep. So they're good folks. You can find their Substack. I recommend checking them out if you can at all. But we're really here to talk about the Standing Stones.
Is it okay, Liz, if I move this just a little?
Yeah, you can try, but it auto-focuses.
Okay.
So it may still cut you off if you don't make enough noise. I just want you to know.
Oh, no.
So tell me how the whole thing got started. I know you guys were not necessarily there on day one, but what's the lore?
Should we introduce ourselves first?
Absolutely.
Hi,
please.
I am Austin Goodwin, and I am the current high priest of the Coven of the Standing Stones. We're an eclectic teaching coven based in the Twin Cities. We do free classes. We do a Seeker's Year and a Dedicant's Year, as Liz just mentioned. And
I am Tina Codman, the High Priestess of the Coven of Standing Stones and one of the teachers for classes here at Vegas. Yeah.
So what is the folklore? What is the legend of the founding of the Coven of the Standing
since you've got a few more years on than me, I'll let you feel this one.
Well, the Standing Stones came out of the Triskelion structure.
And that was, for anybody who knows their history, that was Ken Ra and Liz.
Yeah, Ken and Liz, because there was differing viewpoints on how they wanted to move forward. There was a lot of disagreements on viewpoints, so a small group of individuals broke off and started the Covenant of the Standing Stones. And we have now been around for, let me see here, 25 years.
Yeah, definitely withstood the test of time.
Yep.
You've had all the traditional coven things, the cohesion, the lack of cohesion, the cohesion again.
I think of it as a growing shedding process.
Yeah.
It's almost like growing rings on a tree.
Exactly.
You grow,
Mhm.
then you lose some people. Then you grow,
Mhm.
and then you lose some people. Then you grow. And everybody learns and grows, and hopefully everyone finds a spiritual home. And kind of in the pagan community, there's always this shuffle as new things come and go, and people
absolutely.
meet. And
I mean, isn't change magic though?
Yes.
I think that if you stay in one spot for too long, it just kind of energy stagnates. If you think about things, that energy stagnates. So if you have to kind of keep it changing, to keep it growing, to keep the magic flowing.
Yeah, either your understanding of the material has to change, or the material, quite frankly, just was going to have to change. One of the two, if not both, are likely to happen if you're studying this stuff, if you're actually working with it.
Yep.
So 25 years ago, and founders are still alive, still around. I see every once in a while, including at Roger's birthday party, our founder's birthday party. For he was born on the 4th of July, so it's a July 4th celebration for, birth of something or another. But you guys meet here for part of the year, almost every week, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
we run. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, basically every week, unless there's a snow emergency, and then we kind of built into our schedules.
So yeah, we start Seekers classes, and usually I would say the first or second Saturday after Samhain Halloween, and then they'll usually run through late May or early June when we build some snow into the schedule. This year we're not at Magus the first Saturday of the month, but otherwise we are. The idea with Seekers classes is we're doing introduction to Wicca, and we talk a lot about what Wicca is, how it works. We like to do a lot of practice with magical energy. So in the first few sessions, if you start at the beginning, you hear Tina or I, whoever's doing teaching, talking quite a bit. After that, we kind of want to break it down into some more experiential stuff, because Wicca is very experiential. We personally believe it's fine to read books and it's fine to have a knowledge base, but if you want to get into the craft, it helps to practice. It's all about practice, because that's how you're going to define what works for you. And that's a big principle of our teaching. We're not here to tell you, do X, do Y, do Z, because these aren't high school and college classes. We're here to give people ideas and explain how things like ritual formats work. And then people get to see a little bit, you get the Seekers class, you get a bit of a glimpse of how Covenant Life kind of works. When you see us interact, we'll talk a little bit about our events, things like that. And then we'll do a second year of classes called the Dedicants year. And this is what we call having 1 foot in and 1 foot out of the circle. And the idea is now you've made a commitment to really meet us as a magical family. You start coming to our events. We start going through, I wouldn't say more advanced, but we start going into more depth and drilling down how we do ritual and how we do ritual magic. Most Wiccan covens have a pretty standard ritual format. Everybody does it a little bit differently. And the way we like to think about it is the ritual format is not this thing that's this iron law. It's not a liturgy. We're not orthodox people. It's a way to get everybody on the same page so that magically we jive as a group, as opposed to, and so we try to make teaching experience like Covenant Life. You're not listening to the pastor for 2 hours. Because people are going to be like, great, you guys know a lot of information, and that's really exciting. Maybe we like to.
And I need to remember to get eggs this week.
In any class, we'll have times when people zone out, but we want to minimize that to the extent possible. It's fun. That's the whole idea of magical practice anyway. Are there challenges? Are there growth? Is there that? We don't want, spirituality shouldn't be a chore. All the time, I've had times in my spiritual development that I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? But you know what? If I'm not asking the question and I'm not reaching that stuck point, then am I really growing? Why am I doing this? If my Wiccan life becomes like my regular life, then I have to evaluate why I'm doing this, because it's feeding you here. It's feeding your soul, as one of our covenant elders would say. He lives out of town. It's feeds your soul. I mean,
And it does spill into your normal life
Oh,
because
yeah.
it influences decisions you make, how you choose to behave, how you choose to treat other people and
Right.
yourself. But yeah, it still presents that little bit of challenge
Right.
to be more the best you can be.
And one of the key things that we try to bring into classes is trying to bring your magical life into your daily
Yeah.
life. It's not just going to your ritual on a Sunday and then you're just meandering about Monday through Saturday. This is a daily. I'm going to be a better person. This is how I'm going to center and ground daily. I'm going to do meditations as needed. I'm going to work my rituals and
Yeah.
become stronger with it.
I've always said it's 5% challenge to be a better person, maybe 10, at least 90% joy. And if your religion does not give you joy, why are you in it? That is always my first question. Priority, joy, then growth. Absolutely.
well, the long-term goal is to get people to develop what we call a magical self. And I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but it doesn't make sense unless you do it. And
Yes.
sticker warning, whether you like, black box label warning, whether you like it or not, your magical self will start manifesting itself in the rest of your life. But that's fine because you've chosen to be that person. And that's kind of where the challenge comes in, because then to grow as a person, sometimes things in your life need to be juggled up. And sometimes you're like, this PG show, so I won't give the finger gesture, but sometimes you'll be like, ah. But you know what? That's also where the joy comes in, because think about all the challenges you've had in your life. I mean, anything worth having is not always going to be easy.
Right.
It's not always going to be easy. But one thing we see with a lot of students that have, their spiritual, I mean, however it's been, there's been rocks holding kind of that down in whatever that context is for them. And when they, not we, push that rock up, it's like, and then we've had some recent experience with students where it's just like, holy schmoly. It's just like they're going like, and they're just so excited about it. And all of a sudden they're just exploding out of the blocks. And it's just like, okay, this is working for them.
Yeah.
Like that spiritual light bulb pops off. And you're like,
Yes.
oh, they got it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see all this change,
Yeah.
It's almost, we don't have a phrase for it, but it's almost like the first Wiccan spurt for those that are fairly new to the craft or been looking for around. And then if they find something, whatever group, whether it's us or somebody else, and it clicks and they're like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. And then also it's just like, whoa. And then all of a sudden you see a brand new person literally like being born right in front of you. And that is about the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Well, and they make deliberate choices and changes in their life as a consequence. And talking to my elders, there are, I think, definitely trends. Like in the 1970s, a couple would come for training. And I'm not in Standing Stones, by the way, so this is a different tradition, and that's cool. A couple would come training, and one of the two would really get it, and they'd have that growth spurt thing happen. And the people running it would go, divorce? Are they getting divorced? I think they're going to get divorced in the next year. And almost always, the change to one person and the growth of one person was scary enough to the other person that they could no longer be on a level playing field with each other, and they did wind up getting divorced. Then there was a trend after that, and that really kind of stopped happening quite as much. It was more about jobs. And so you saw people changing careers or going back to school, so it seems to go through like what that leads to seems to depend on what's going on in society more than anything else.
We're definitely influenced by broader trends in society. Giving people the tools to work with themselves brings that out, and then people start manifesting that change in ways that work for them. And absolutely, I agree with you. I think there's decades and years where you see similar themes, and probably it's whatever social growth or change to some extent is going on at the time. Not that you don't see, it's not like this iron thing where it's, 80s is this box, and 90s is this box. But I've been around about long enough to, I think, seen some shifts.
Yeah. You're like, most people right now are doing X. A few years ago, most people were doing Y. Yeah, it just seems to be, it's an interesting process to watch. I did not change careers. I did not get divorced. I don't know what to say.
Or as I like to put it, I didn't end on my job. My job ended on me.
That also, I think, can
it's like,
happen.
nope.
Yeah. Well, and I think that can also happen because of somebody taking a more ethical stance in their personal life and becoming maybe a little more difficult to work with.
Just ask my ex-husband.
Yeah, maybe the
Spiritual differences.
spiritual growth and better ethics does not necessarily always coincide with social growth. I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a rough and tumble in that transition while you learn the skills that you need to get along in society with a new perspective on who you are, how life should work, what the universe means.
Corporate America works for some people and doesn't for others.
Yeah.
Everyone listening to this podcast is aware of it. If they're over the age of 16 or 17, probably. That first fast food job. It's like, okay.
Yep. Are you kidding me? Our founder, Roger, spoke glowingly about the women who worked for him and how dumb he thinks corporate America is for missing out on the talent that they couldn't accommodate. And it was mostly women.
Oh yeah, big believer in untapped cultural resources. I always used to say, and I've never worked in executive in corporate America, that said that tapping human resource talent is kind of like the final frontier for what you want to do. If you want to stay relevant. But that's just my off the cuff, not what we're talking about.
So out of curiosity, what is your favorite term for what the Standing Stones does? Is it a pagan group, a Wiccan group, a group of witches? What word do you guys, or do you like, or you not care?
Like
I'm
that
most
word?
curious.
No, it's not that word.
My favorite F word is family.
Okay.
We consider ourselves a family.
All right.
And just like every family, you got your little crackers.
Yeah,
You got your little nuts.
Yeah.
But everybody, it's just it's a family, and we grow and change as our family grows and changes. And
Mhm.
It was kind of set up that way. I mean, when the people that founded the Stones broke away from Triskelion, one thing that one of the founders wanted to see, some of the founders wanted to see, is a more included family atmosphere, and that there are Wiccan covens that they're ritual focused. They're skill focused, they're practice focused. Not that we don't do these things, but we also want to come together as a group and have family, because I think the founders recognize that that's an important part of life, is feeling that you can have a chosen family. And it can be more than just the rituals that you do together. And then, as we teach, everything can be a ritual.
Yep.
If you want to be intentional about everything, people sometimes say, Wiccan ritual, I can't do that. I'm like, well, you do rituals all day long. You're just probably not thinking about it. Brushing your teeth is a ritual. Family gatherings, meals, all those things are rituals. And when you do that with a chosen magical family, you get that extra power. And then you do ritual magic with people.
Yeah,
And
suddenly
that
you're
is-
not falling into ritual, you're intending to do ritual.
Exactly.
And it changes how it affects you and everything around you.
And with our rituals, we allow children are very welcome in our
Nice.
ritual spaces, and they add to that energy so much so that some of the children that have grown up within our coven are now have taken classes and
Very
are
nice.
moving on to their own paths as
Oh,
well.
that's so
So
cool.
that's been a really fun
Generational Wicca, we're so blessed.
That was the
Even
one.
to have a little bit of that, it's like, wow.
Yeah, definitely. I know it's an area, particularly in the Twin Cities here, that where people have been very trepidatious about having children included. But if they're the children of members, that is a little different.
Right.
So as opposed to just allowing a random 14-year-old to show up at your ritual.
No, as with everything, we have rules and guidelines because we're part of a broader society, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm curious, since it's a somewhat family-centered and family-focused, because I was trained in a group that had some similar ideas about how to run things, there was a significant minority in that group that, in retrospect, not in the moment, but in retrospect, were clearly working out issues with their parents, with the leaders. Do you guys ever encounter that kind of dynamic?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
When the kids are about, we just say, okay, parents.
Oh, no.
No, you mean
the
people, adults.
Oh, you mean adults?
Yeah.
Oh.
So you got somebody in their 20s who's maybe still a little angsty about that one parent,
Okay.
and they kind of sort of take it out on whomever personality-wise seems to fit that parent role for
The
them.
last few classes that I've been involved with have been pretty mature
That's good.
Yeah.
in that respect. I mean, I think whatever people bring into has to be worked through.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to use, transference of a 4E term or whatever, not that I'm into that. You're always going to get a degree of that,
Yeah.
but I really don't. I mean, I watch people grow spiritually and go through changes and struggle sometimes, but I don't really feel attacked. I mean, it's
Good.
pretty rare.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And yeah, if you're getting more mature people, better odds. People have worked through stuff. Not a guarantee, however. I'm just going to point it out now. Not a guarantee.
Well, the way I think of it is, I think when you get people into groups, I think people can figure out pretty fast on the spiritual level what's going to fit and what isn't. We try to be pretty open and welcoming up front. But we're definitely not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but we're not going to be these, really guarded, closed-in people, because we want people to see us. I mean, not everything, but we want us to see us as they are, so that at a higher level or spiritual level, they can start making those decisions or start thinking. And I think sometimes people make decisions to come and go before they're even mentally aware of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me, 3 years to decide to initiate, 4 years. And it was that process for me. And mentally, I was like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? Spiritually, I think I made up my mind that first maybe I would do. But, it takes the mind a little while to catch up. And since we're used to that, then you kind of get to know when to step back and let people make that decision. Sometimes you kind of know what the decision is going to be for people, and sometimes you don't. But everyone's got to make that decision for themselves. And so there's similarities in that growing process that you do spot. And then so sometimes you kind of have a bit of an idea, kind of.
What might be coming down the pike?
Yeah, I mean, as we say to everybody, you're always welcome to leave or stay. We never push anybody out the door unless their behaviors or actions are outrageous, and then you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're not holding on to people, but I mean, for the people that belong with us, we're always going to be here for you. I mean, there's a saying that, was it Don saying? Once a stone, always a stone. So it's, I mean, even if whatever parting people do, the love is always there, because I mean, and that's another thing I think that's really important in coven life in general. I mean, if you don't have the love, and it's not there all the time. I mean, we all go through times when that magical self just isn't there. I mean, we're human, but I mean, in the long run, if the love isn't there, how are you gonna make? I mean, the way we do it, I don't think without the love, I don't think the dynamics would be survivable.
Yeah.
I mean, there'd just be too much, because I mean, if there's a lot of growth. I mean, I know we talk a little bit about a lot of challenges, and I don't want to overplay it. I think more in terms of growth. But I mean, running a Wiccan coven for this length of time comes with some breakpoints.
Yeah.
It just simply does. But I think as long as we have the heart, as long as people have the heart, I think that really makes a big difference when the waters get a little rocky, I think.
It does. It makes a huge difference. I agree. I don't want to ask any questions that are too prying or are private information, but when somebody says pagan, Wiccan, they use the word coven, I assume, unless they say otherwise, that there's probably a masculine divine and a feminine divine, however you define those things. How is it for you guys?
Well,
Good. It's an excellent question.
Excellent question. Something that we're currently working through right now,
Okay.
because we were very much set in a very structured way before, and we're trying to wrap our head around certain concepts that are coming into our vision currently, especially with everything going on in the world. So that is something that we're working on looking at in deeper ways, because there's been a lot of discussion regarding that particular
I can imagine.
idea.
I think the way I contextualize it, society changes, so of course we're going to change with society.
Yep.
We have to make the changes fit in such a way that the magic still flows,
Yeah.
and we have to run change in a process so those changes take hold meaningfully. There's no such thing in a Wiccan coven as, okay, everyone agrees today, and then in a month or 2 weeks, everything's going to change. If change was that easy, we would just simply do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we would simply identify a need, and then in a month, everything would change. But the way I think of it, we're not dying on this hill. The issue of gender fluidity, gender non-binary, all that stuff, we're not dying on this hill. We are going to, I mean, you have to take a look at things.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, I mean, you can't just say, okay, and this has sometimes been a problem, frankly, in the Wiccan community, and in my opinion, there may be things that places where covens don't go, but I don't think it really works to look at broader cultural changes and say, I'm going to die on that hill, because then the younger folks in the community are going to say, okay, it was nice to know ya. And then that's your hill to die on. And I don't think that's really, I mean, I think we owe our members of the broader community to tackle these issues earnestly, not saying, X by Y date. But I mean, you really take it seriously and really look at it, because I mean, otherwise, we're kind of doing a disservice to people if we're not willing to acknowledge and at a minimum consider changes.
Because telling someone, oh yeah, we'll take care of this week and under the rug is not how we do things.
Yeah,
So,
that won't work in the long
It just
run
doesn't.
anyway.
yeah.
And for me, what resolved a lot of issues for me was in my training, I was asked to pick a mythology to study
Mhm.
so that I could explain things and express things that maybe were private to the group. And I did not pick a mythology so much as I picked folklore. And I picked folklore and folk tales because it is mythology. It's just mythology that was not respected in my mind. It's the mythology of the people of the various societies when you're looking at their folklore. And there is a way of analyzing folklore that says that every character in the story is you individual, the person reading the story or hearing the story. They are all aspects of who you are. And I went, oh, okay. So I'm the goddess, but I'm also the god. I can dig that. I don't have a problem with that. Any deity you want, it's in me. So that was part of how I went through my process of going, I think some of the people before me were maybe not the smartest people on this subject. But if it's all, and consequently, if you're in the ritual, from your perspective, everything happening in the ritual is all about you. Just like it's all about me. And so you're all the things, just like I'm all the things. And for me, that's what works. But that has everything to do with the fact that I studied folklore, and that is a common way of analyzing folklore, and has been since actually Freud. He didn't do it, but that era of European psychology is what kicked that idea off.
I think for me, I want to make sure I'm educating myself in a non-judgmental way about changes and new ways of thinking. And I'm not blocking myself off. It's not, initially, it's not, I don't have to place a value judgment. I want to understand cultural changes that are happening, and I want to understand different people's perspectives as best I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't walk in other people's shoes. I haven't had their experiences, and I have to be upfront about that, which doesn't mean that I'm not open to learning new ways of looking at things. Because I mean, ultimately beyond the god and the goddess, however you want to contextualize that, if you want to get away from the gender non-binary, I mean, the divine doesn't care about those things. I mean, there's always other ways of thinking about things. It doesn't have to be, because I mean,
it doesn't have to be A or B.
Right.
for a number of years, I mean, it's blocked access to people in Wicca. It's been an issue for, I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn, but it sounds like at least 20 or 30 years, and probably a lot longer than that, because the people that were being blocked didn't know it back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, because the language didn't exist. I mean, on one hand, it doesn't make it okay, but on the other hand, if society doesn't have the vocabulary and there's no information, I think there's a difference between ignorance and fear and hate. If you just don't know what it is, but you're open to learning about it, you could say, okay, I did something for 20 years. I did it in good faith because I had no idea those other ways of looking at it were. On the other hand, if you've done something for 20 years and somebody comes with a new idea and the finger gesture comes up before you even know what it is that good faith?
Yeah.
I would question that.
And are you then coming at it from a position of curiosity, of love for your fellow human being? And if you're not, again, I said earlier, 90% joy. Well, that's based in love. You don't get to joy without the love, really. You can't. They're intertwined in many ways.
And I'll be frank, that's a challenge, especially in an involving Wiccan coven. I mean, that is a challenge, but if you're not ready to take challenges and come with the things that happen with that, how are you going to grow as a person and as a family? How are you going to grow?
One of the things I've loved is that traditionally people early in their training, if they choose to go the route of training, are generally called a priest or priestess or whatever word you want to use for that. That means you're in charge. I'm not in charge if I'm training you. You're in charge. It's your job. You've got to make decisions. You've got to grow. You've got to think. You've got to learn. Yes, I'm going to put some challenges in front of you, but that's my job. And I'm going to watch you get through them. I really am just going to go, okay, let's see what you do.
I think that's a much more mature way of looking at it. I mean, I think of us as, there is a bit of hierarchy in the Wiccan coven. However, we're the tour guides. We're giving the people the tools to make magical transformation in ourselves.
Yeah.
The Wiccan community has changed a lot. I mean, we used to, in some of the older Wiccan traditions, you had what were called bound degrees.
Mhm.
The first degree was bound. What that means is you could not do any magic unless you went to the high priest or high priestess and asked permission first. And in 2025, we look at that and say, absolutely not. If we don't trust the people we're training to do magic, then we are not doing it right.
Yep.
So there's some
Right.
issue with us,
Yep.
not with our students.
Yeah.
And change is difficult.
But
I mean,
necessary.
The pace of societal change has picked up. I mean,
Yeah.
the 60s and 70s were a lot of change, but you had this big explosion of change, and then I think it took probably 30 or 40 years to really digest it. Now I think the change, and this is just my perspective, is probably maybe a little bit more fundamental, where so many things have happened that it's kind of gone down a few levels, and I think for some of us olds, it might just kind of. I mean, it's one thing to grok. Okay, these terms, these concepts, these are important to people. This is how value is created. But to actually dig down several levels, like lived experiences you haven't had, now there's a challenge.
But an important one.
Oh yeah,
I gotta say,
absolutely.
we are out of time. Thank you both for coming in. This was a fascinating conversation. Of course, this will get posted later after the live, and that's where we pick up most of our views. So it's kind of fun that way.
Yeah, if you like to babble, Tina,
Yeah.
me babbling mostly.
And then
I do this,
It's a
and
good
then
level.
come on down, check out the Seekers
Yeah.
classes, and they're free.
We have
Yep.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're always fun. They get rave reviews. And this week's secret word for anybody who's been waiting is going to be standing stones. I will be texting the other Liz and Adam so they know standing stones. Secret shopping word. So in the meantime, have a wonderful week.
everybody.
Yep, goodbye.
Yeah, thanks for
from
taking the
Megas
time to sit
Books
with us.
here in Minneapolis, megasbooks.com. We will see you all soon. And I think I've got a herbal post for tomorrow ready to go, I think. Ooh, I hope so. Anyway, let's be.
Bless